The sound of rain tapped gently against the windowpane of my small apartment in Portland, Oregon. I lay on the couch, eyes closed, trying to block out the world. It had been one of those weeks, the kind where everything seemed to unravel at once. Work was overwhelming. My personal life was in shambles, and loneliness weighed on me like a heavy blanket. That night, I had curled up with my eyes shut, ready to just breathe, ready to let the storm outside wash away the storm inside me. But then came the knock at the door. At first, I ignored it. Maybe it was just a neighbor, or maybe someone got the wrong apartment. But the knocking persisted, firm and steady. With a sigh, I dragged myself up and went to open it. When I did, I was stunned. It was my younger brother's best friend, Jason Miller. Jason had always been around growing up. He was practically family, kind, dependable, and the kind of person who had a smile that could disarm any situation. But I hadn't seen him in years. Life had pulled us in different directions. "Hey," he said, shaking off the rain from his jacket. "Sorry for dropping in unannounced, but your brother told me you've been going through a lot. Thought maybe you could use some company." For a moment, I just stood there, processing his words. Then, without thinking too much, I stepped aside and let him in. "Thanks, Jason," I murmured. As soon as he entered, the apartment felt different, lighter, warmer. We sat in the living room, the rain providing a soft soundtrack in the background. Jason looked around and chuckled. "You've always had a way of making a place feel cozy. Even with the chaos outside, it feels safe in here." His words hit me harder than I expected. Safe. That was something I hadn't felt in a long time. I offered him tea, and we sat together, sipping quietly at first. But soon the conversation began to flow. We talked about everything, old memories, the silly games we used to play when we were kids, the people we'd lost touch with, and the dreams we still held on to. At one point, Jason leaned back and said, "You know, sometimes I think life has this strange way of bringing people back together exactly when they need it most." I closed my eyes again, letting his words sink in. He was right. Later that night, another knock came at the door. My neighbor, Mrs. Henderson, an elderly widow, stood there with a plate of cookies. She smiled when she saw Jason inside. "Oh, I didn't know you had company." "That's wonderful. It's good to have people around, dear. Don't spend too much time alone." Her words made me realize something important. I had been shutting myself off from people, from the world, thinking solitude was the answer. But maybe what I really needed was connection. When I came back inside, Jason was already placing the cookies on the table. "Looks like we're not the only ones who believe in showing up when it matters," he said with a smile. I laughed, really laughed, for the first time in weeks. What started as a simple visit turned into a night of healing. Jason suggested we watch an old movie, the kind we used to love as teenagers. Halfway through, I found myself leaning against the couch cushion, eyes closed, not from exhaustion this time but from comfort. And then something surprising happened. Jason, noticing how relaxed I was, whispered, "You can rest, I'll be here." In that moment, I realized how much I had been craving, not just rest but the reassurance that someone would still be there when I opened my eyes again. He didn't have to say anything more. He didn't have to fix my problems. His presence was enough. When I woke up the next morning, sunlight poured through the curtains. Jason was still there, sitting at the dining table with a cup of coffee and reading the newspaper. "Morning," he said warmly. For the first time in a long while, I felt lighter. That day, Jason helped me clean the apartment, organize the clutter that had built up, and even cook a proper breakfast. It wasn't just about tidying my space, it was about tidying the heaviness in my heart. At the door before leaving, he said, "You don't always have to carry everything alone. Let people in, even if it's just for a night." His words stuck with me. Weeks turned into months, and Jason and I stayed close. He visited often, sometimes just for coffee, sometimes for long talks that lasted until midnight. With his encouragement, I started reconnecting with old friends, trying new hobbies, and even taking weekend trips just to remind myself that life was meant to be lived, not endured. One evening, sitting with my journal, I wrote, "Healing doesn't come when you shut the world out. It comes when you let it back in, even when it surprises you at the door." And I realized that night, with my eyes closed and heart heavy, when Jason knocked and I let him in, I hadn't just invited him into my home. I had invited healing, hope, and a reminder that love, in its purest form, shows up quietly, just when you need it most. Life has a way of testing us, of breaking us down until we forget what it feels like to laugh, to breathe, to believe. But sometimes, the answer comes not in grand gestures or perfect solutions, but in something as simple as a knock at the door, a familiar smile, and the courage to open up. That night, with my eyes closed and ready to give up, I let Jason in. And without even realizing it, I let life back in too. Because healing doesn't happen alone. It happens together.